Hello, everybody. I hope you and your families are all doing well. I'm grateful to Dr. Doria and the Mayor's Office of National Affairs for organizing this panel in a virtual setting, even though I would have really enjoyed meeting you all in person. And for those of you who are not familiar with our organization, the Chamber was established in 1859, which makes us one of the oldest chambers in the United States. And today we are known for convening Metro Atlanta's most influential businesses, universities, nonprofits, and other organizations. We work to grow the 29 county region through economic development, advocate through public policy, and promote Atlanta in partnership with the Atlanta Sports Council, both domestic and abroad. And so while our priorities may have shifted a little during this crisis, the Metro Atlanta Chamber remains committed to lifting up Atlanta's built-in diversity, including a number of thriving industries, diversity of talent, colleges, universities, and companies that are committed to diversity in hiring. Part of our economic development division is a dedicated global commerce team led by John Woodward. Our team focuses on foreign investment, international trade, and we consider them as a two-way street. On the slide, you can see a short description of the assistance we provide in the area of foreign investment. And as you probably know, Atlanta is home to a number of international companies from all over the world, which is the result of our region's very strong support system for companies that consider the entry into the US market. And our job is really to promote the region and assist foreign companies that want to locate or expand here in Metro Atlanta. And we do this in collaboration with our partners in the region. I won't go too much into detail when it comes to the foreign investment part, because today I really want to focus on the international trade side, but I'd be happy to answer any questions as a follow-up about the foreign investment part. So I'd really like to take the chance to talk about how our organization is supporting companies in their export journey. You have already heard or will hear from many of our partners, and there are many resources out there. And I really want you to think about all of our tools and programs in the context of these resources. Because I think what makes our region very special is, when it comes to trade promotion, is really our close collaboration. So before I introduce our programs, I would like to make clear that when I talk about exporting, I don't only refer to the export of physical products. I talk about this export of services and technologies as well. This all might seem very obvious to all of you, but it's not always obvious to companies. The term exporting carries really certain connotations. And when I ask you what comes to mind when I say the word export, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you will think about a port, a ship, containers, train, totally normal. And that's what I usually associate with the term exporting. But in my job, I have supported companies in their export journey in almost every industry sector, in medtech, bioscience, manufacturing, fintech, and even companies in the creative industries. When I talk about the support we as the Chamber can provide to companies that consider exporting or that are already exporting, I usually divide it into three areas. The areas educate, activate, and connect. And so while this separation allows me to better explain my work, I don't want you to think about them silos. There's a lot of overlap between them. Let me talk about the first area, education. A big part of my daily job is to introduce the idea of exporting to companies that otherwise would not consider exporting as part of their business strategy. And there are many reasons why they don't consider as part of their business strategies. And the most common arguments I hear from companies is that they, first of all, have a product that is primarily targeted to a domestic audience. And so they don't really see the need of selling it to a foreign customer. They also might be afraid of the risk and cost associated with exporting. And I don't want to lie, exporting is a major undertaking, and it's associated with risk and cost that you have to keep in mind. When you think about traveling costs, about translating of marketing material, hiring an interpreter when you go to a trade show, for example, these are all costs associated with exporting. And it's not always certain for a company that the cost will yield an immediate return. So if they have a customer base here in the United States, they might think it's not worth the risk and the money to invest into this undertaking. And then really often they also just think that the foreign market is also already saturated with a similar product, or they're just overwhelmed with the overall the amount of resources that are out there, and they don't even know where to start. So you can see there are many reasons that can prevent a company from exporting. And my job is to really educate companies about the benefits of exporting and why it makes sense to do it, even though there are risks associated with it. You can see a couple of examples of way we engage companies in the export discussion. One of them is passport to exports. I know that Cesar has already talked about that in his presentation. This is really an roundtable discussion that we have been organizing with regional partners for many years now. And they usually consist of an introduction to the resources in the region that are available to the companies. And they also usually feature a panel of experienced exporting companies. So the key really in this discussion is to invite a very interesting panel of companies that the companies in the audience can relate to. This format really offers a great opportunity to have a very honest and direct discussions around many topics related to international business and exporting. And we have been organizing them everywhere around the region, most recently with the Mayor's Office of International Affairs. Other settings would include lunch and learns at co-working spaces, industry-specific trade events, one-on-one meetings with companies. So there are many different ways how we can help companies to get educated. The most important part in all of these engagements and the conversations with the company is to make sure that the companies see the benefit of exporting and that they're also getting aware of all the resources that are there to support them. Some of the common benefits I mention when I talk to companies is that the benefit, for example, of a diversified global customer base that can be very beneficial during an economic downturn. So if the demand for a company's product drops in the US market, companies that already have foreign customers can really often shift kind of their attention until the demand picks back up in the domestic market. And engaging in international sales can also really have a positive effect on a company's general business development and growth, because companies that export usually have to hire additional staff to support their export business and really handle the increased demand they get from a foreign market. And then last but not least, engaging in international sales really provides also an exposure for their products internationally. So it can have a very positive impact on their overall marketing strategy. Let me talk about the second area that we work on, which is the activation piece. And that's where some of our key resources come in. As I mentioned before, starting to grow your international sales is associated with costs. Trade shows are a perfect example. Many companies use trade shows to connect with customers in foreign markets and advertise their product. But the costs that are associated with it can be enormous. You must pay for a booth. You might have to pay for the flight, expensive hotels, ground transportation, food. There's a lot of upfront costs when a company goes to a trade show. And it's sometimes very hard for especially smaller companies to pay for that at the beginning of the export journey. So in 2016, we started the Atlanta Metro Export Challenge, which is a regional grant program designed to engage and challenge small and medium-sized business in Metro Atlanta to really think about international expansion, also to really start working on an international sales plan and building out their resources to do all of this. Through the program, we help companies to develop those plans. We help them to drive the companies to implement the plan. And we also try to, with this whole program, to increase the exposure and the awareness for the impact of exports of services and products on Metro Atlanta. So every year, we select a group of companies from all industry sectors for this program. Each grant recipient receives a $5,000 grant that they can use to build out their international sales, which means they really often use it to pay for their airfare to a conference, for a conference registration, for ground transportation over there, or like all these costs that I mentioned before. And they really often also use it for things here on the ground to get ready to export, which means they use it for globalizing their website, for doing market research, becoming GDPR compliant, attending webinars or seminars and trainings to become more, to understand all the resources that are out there and getting ready for all of this. So there's really a lot of freedom around them, how they use their money for their export business. And then throughout the grant year, the grant recipients also benefit from a series of webinars on exporting. And so we try to provide them a series of webinars where they can focus on different areas of their business and building out their export capacities. And we do that in collaboration with all of our partners in the region. So for example, throughout the year, the recipients of that program have access to a network of partner resources. It means they work with a trade specialist at the Georgia Department of Economic Development. They work with a trade specialist at the U.S. Commercial Service, and they even have access to a network of mentors through the District Export Council. And so all of those resources that are out in the region, we try to combine in this program to really give the companies a very collaborative approach to all of their export business. And then at the end of the year, the companies can compete for additional funding in a public competition, which is called the Atlanta MEC Pitch Day. You can see a couple of pictures from those events here on the slide. And I don't know when and how the Pitch Day will take place this year, but of course, I'd be happy to extend an invitation to all of you to attend that. It's a very interesting conversation around exporting great companies, and you really get an access to the whole network of people out here. A lot of them you have seen in the videos in the previous weeks. So the Atlanta Metro Export Challenge is a key component of a larger Atlanta Metro Export Plan that was developed in 2016. And that was an initiative to really to increase the regional economic and job growth by engaging more Metro Atlanta companies in exports. The Atlanta Metro Export Plan and the Metro Export Challenge were both part of a larger Global Cities Initiative, a joint project between the Brookings Institution and JP Chase to build awareness of the importance of international markets and export and FDI in particular. And Metro Atlanta was one of the selected regions taking part in this initiative. JP Chase, as a founding member, has supported the Atlanta Metro Export Challenge with over $300,000 in grant funding between 2016 and 2019. And our global commerce team at the Metro Atlanta Chamber has been administering the program since its implementation. So since 2016, over 100 companies went through the program and have received more than $500,000 in support for building out their export business. I don't want to go too much into all of the details of this program, but I think it's very interesting when you look at some of the stats we got from the companies after we worked with them in the program. We still continue working with them on a daily basis. But of the companies in the program between 2016 and 2019, 80% of the companies used the money to actually travel to a foreign market to meet with their customers or attend a trade show or conferences. And they traveled to a total of 44 markets, different individual foreign markets on 5 continents to really build out their business. I think that is always very interesting, even though some companies use a lot of the resources that are available here in the region, the majority still uses it to really travel, which could also, the reason for that could also be that a lot of the resources that are here in the region that companies can use without even traveling are free or very inexpensive for companies. So they can actually use that grant money really often towards the actual travel piece and get a lot of support here for free from all of our partners. What I think is very unique about this program, and what really makes this one of the most collaborative programs here in the region, is that so many partners here are involved from the private and public sector. You can see some of the logos here on the slide, but the current and the prior partners and sponsors of this program include the Georgia Department of Economic Development, the District Export Council, the City of Atlanta Mayor's Office of International Affairs, Partnership Gwinnett, Forward for Size, Decide CAP, Select COP, and then also a lot of private partners, including UPS, Delta Airlines, and of course, JP Chase. So all of us essentially coming together in this program to provide the resources, the financial support for a company to really grow the international business. And I'm really thankful for all the support we receive from our partners and sponsors here in the region. So another area on the activation side for our companies is really often companies that sell their products internationally, and that mostly applies to companies that provide a physical product, is export certification. Companies that are selling a product abroad often need certifications that prove the US origin of the product. And we are working with an electronic platform to help companies to receive that documentation relatively quick. A lot of the proceeds that come out of this system will go back into supporting programs like the Atlanta Metro Export, some of our other export
programs. Let me talk last but not least about the connection piece that we provide. We also assist companies that want to grow their international business in making the right connections. So while we don't have a network of foreign offices like the state of Georgia, we have a very robust network of partners around the world that we regularly work with, both on a public and a private sector. In the private sector, there would be a network of lawyers and consultants, accountants that focus on national business, both for companies that want to expand internationally and companies that are coming over here. And then on the public side, we work with a lot of other chambers around the world, with foreign offices of the US Commercial Service, the city and regional representatives in every corner of the world. And that can be very helpful for companies to get some introduction to those actors out there as well. And then I already mentioned the International Office of the State of Georgia, and I know that Mary Waters spoke about that previously to you about. These offices are a tremendous asset for the state of Georgia, and we work with them regularly on both trade and investment. Another network that we rely on is our own internal network of industry contacts, industry sector specialists that are of industry sectors that are objectively strong in the region. So although our global commerce team, we are all generalists in our global commerce team, we have a group of industry experts within some of the sectors that are objectively strong here in Metro Atlanta. And these experts cover the industry sector, supply chain, advanced manufacturing, bioscience, smart cities, fintech, cybersecurity, creative industries, in particular esports, film, and music. So companies in Metro Atlanta that want to grow their international sales are really often in some of those industry sectors. And we want to make sure that they have the right contacts. So we often introduce them to partners here in the region, also around the world in those industry sectors. And we also often partner with our colleagues at the Georgia Department of Economic Development to bring companies to industry shows around the world. One example would be the Money 2020 conferences in Las Vegas and in Amsterdam and in Singapore, where we bring companies to in collaboration with the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Another one would be Medica, a big medical conference in Germany every year. So I want to sum up my presentation by saying that Metro Atlanta is truly a global region, and our mission is to further strengthen our global significance. Every company that sells its products and services abroad essentially functions as an ambassador for our region. We want to help them to really be successful. I would like to thank all of our partners that work on a daily basis on supporting companies to grow their international business. And I really appreciate the collaboration. I would also really like to express my gratitude to all of you for your interest in international business and trade, and Dr. Doria for organizing all of this. And please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. If you have questions about just generally a career in this sector, or if you want to talk about just specifics about the programs we offer, or you want to get involved in some way. So with that, I'm ending my presentation here. Thank you very much.